Hello and welcome everyone. Today I am going to start onto my ASP.NET general playlist, where the first video was about pre-compilation in web projects and websites in ASP.NET, and I am going to today discuss about the ASP.NET code generation and compilation, an overview of that. For that, if you have not seen my earlier tutorial on the ASP.NET general playlist for the pre-compilation, please view that before coming to this particular tutorial, because this is built on that. Now, a web application projects, the source code for the pages, typically in a separate file, which is the code behind class file, that is the .asp.aspx.cs. I mean, all of my followers who have watched or who have worked with the code behind model for web application project in ASP.NET are aware with this, I'm sure. And the markup in the .aspx files compose an ASP.NET page. The application's compilation model dictates the steps performed by the runtime. Now, these steps are: the page's source code must be explicitly compiled into a single assembly before getting deployed or published to the web server. At the time of deployment, this assembly and the various markup pages are copied to the production server, and the runtime creates an instance of the page's code behind class and invokes its process request method. Now, this starts the page lifecycle and ultimately generates the page's content that is returned. Now, since the code behind class was already compiled into an assembly prior to deployment, it is possible for the runtime to work with the page's code behind class. Because when it is compiled into an assembly, it becomes a binary file. Now, this cannot be readable by the human eye, but it is deassembled to actually recreate the page's code behind class by the runtime. Runtime can do that, not us. Now, website projects. Now, with website projects, the deployment involves copying both the declarative markup, that is the .aspx pages, and the source code, that is .aspx.cs files, to the production environment. So both. You don't have an assembly, prior compiled assembly. No, that is slightly different in website projects. So as a request arrives at the web server for an ASP.NET page for the first time since the page was created or last updated, the runtime must compile the code behind into an assembly first. So here the code behind is again compiled into an assembly, but that is done by the runtime when it is already deployed on the web server and a request from a user arrives at the web server for that particular ASP.NET page for the first time. Okay, now though the compiled assembly is saved in a default folder, which is %win directory on your computer's %/\microsoft.net/framework/ the version /temporary ASP.NET files. The folder location can also be customized via this compilation temp directory equals, within quotes you can give the folder path if you want to put it elsewhere in your folder system, file system, and it is a part of the system.web tag under the web.config file. In short, with explicit compilation, you are required to compile the website's source code before deployment, that is in the case of web application project, saving the runtime from having to perform that step. With automatic compilation in the website projects, the runtime handles the compilation of the page's source code, but with a slight initialization cost for the first visit to the page, because since it was created or last updated. Lastly, how does the text, HTML and web control syntax defined in the .aspx file work with the runtime to generate requested pages rendered content? So the answer is, the runtime automatically generates a class file that contains various web controls as protected members and methods. This generated file is implemented as a partial class to the corresponding code behind class. So If you look into your ASP.NET page, once the file is compiled, it will create a designer, but it will be also a code behind type of file, and this is a partial class, and this file is implemented along with the corresponding code behind class. The important point is that for an ASP.NET page to be rendered by the runtime, both its declarative part and the source code portions must be compiled into an assembly. With web application projects, the source code is explicitly compiled into an assembly prior to deployment, but the declarative markup still must be converted into code and compiled by the runtime on the web server. With website projects using automatic compilation, both the source code and the declarative markup need to be compiled by the web server. It's possible to use, however, the explicit compilation model with the website projects as well, which will be a topic of some other lectures. It is possible to use explicit compilation with the WSP model, website projects model. You can explicitly compile the source code portion like the web application project model. What's more, you can also compile the declarative markup. So there's another option with the website projects. So that's all for today. Thank you for watching. If you have liked my video, please put your likes, comments, and subscribe to my channel to view the entire set of playlists. Thanks.